Hello, my name is Jesse. I'm a costumer, and welcome back. We're back on Jaskier. It's been a while, but I'll do a little recap of my previous videos. So, in the previous video, I tackled the sleeves on the jacket. So I'll show you. This is basically where we left off last time. I did all the art finishing for the sleeves, the assembling, the lining as well. That's all in there too, and I inserted it. So. Not quite done yet though, because it occurred to me last night that I didn't put a sleeve puff in, and I think I wasn't going to worry about it just because this jacket's already really heavy anyways. And what good would the sleeve puff do? Well, in actual fact, because it's still got a gathered section in like a conventional suit jacket, a little bit more extreme, however, but it's still got a lot of negative space that would benefit from a little sleeve puff being inserted into the jacket. So what that is it's a little bit of wadding, something I prepared earlier, a little bit of wadding folded over, encased in a little bit of bias linen or some lightweight cotton. It doesn't really matter. I think this is interfacing. It just happened to be something I had lying around, and that's what I used. So what I do with this, I cut it roughly. It's roughly the size of the top sleeve. There isn't a top sleeve on this sleeve pattern, but between a little bit further in the registration points at the front and at the back, it's slightly longer than that. So what I do is I hand stitch that into the arm side, so that this side, well, basically it goes this way out on my shoulder. You've got the little shorter edge on the top here and the longer edge on the bottom, and you just sort of insert it, and that fills all that negative space that we have from the gathering. So that's a little thought that occurred to me yesterday, and that's gonna be one of the first things I do, because today we're gonna be lining this thing in the main body, because the sleeves sorted. I need to have this lined so that it can stop fraying and I can stop finding little bits of this gold material around the house. So that'll be good. So lining, sleeve puff, and the collar. And also the facing, because the facing, while I did have a little folded over edge on the right side, I could have actually gotten away with having both folded edges, but I didn't realize that it was something that I could do, because basically I'm getting ahead of myself again. What I'm going to be doing for this is I'm going to be inserting some little button loops. So no buttonholes on this jacket, not very period accurate, but I'm going to have these little button closures. So this is the winner. This is a sample I did yesterday. I just wanted to see what it would do, how small I can make the little button loops, because it's basically the rouleau technique of bagging out a very thin tube, and you've got this beautiful self fabric closure, which is great, and it's encased in a little facing piece, like a fake facing piece that I made. I thought I was going to have to draft the facing today on camera, but I actually realized I went looking through the old patterns, because I had to go and tape together all of those little individual stripe pieces to make the lining pattern. It's cut out. Like, I could have traced it off again, but it just made more sense to save paper. So I traced off the facing piece already, so that's one thing out of the way. And so this is the facing, and I'm basically just going to encase this little loop. I'll get it out so you can have a little look at this guy. And once again, I'm so stoked about these buttons, because they're perfect for the jacket, and they're not quite like the ones that were in the show, but pretty close. So this is the winner, and it's just encased in that seam there. So upon further investigation, I found that I could have actually kept the folded edge on both sides of the jacket and poked a hole in with my awl, and just sort of just fed the little loop of the same fabric through the holes, and then I sort of just secure it down with a hand stitch or a machine stitch. I probably would have machine stitched it for longevity and strength, but I didn't do that, so that's okay. We're going to still get quite a neat little finish, and ultimately it's not going to matter. And I found, I'll have to open this up again, but I found that it was roughly 5 centimeters long, this little bit, and the smallest width I could get this rouleau with this fabric is approximately 6 mil. Yeah, about 6 mil. And it's quite thick as well, so I wouldn't want the loop any smaller than this, because as I was pulling it out just then, it is quite... Okay, I just bungled taking it out the first time, so it's not actually that tight, so that's good. It'll be easy for me to get on, because at a convention, I'll be tired, it's heavy, it's warm, and the last thing I want to do is be trapped in this jacket with like six little button loops. So that's the other job, the button loops. I did that sample yesterday. That's all sorted. And yeah, that's going to be the video. I'm going to leave the trims off for today. I'll save that for the follow-up. As I foresee it, I think this is going to be the second last video on this build, because the final thing that I need to do for this is to assemble the epaulets, trim them, trim anything like the collar that I do today, and also the cuffs. The cuffs need a little, and I'm staring. It's on my mannequin right now. Like I've pinned them there. I cut a little bit of extra length than I actually needed, but yeah, there. It just needs to be hand stitched on. That's it. So plus all the little stay stitching I did on this. Yeah, you can see it. In the red thread, I've kind of just basted it all together. I didn't want any of these pleats to go wonky or accidentally get pressed in a wrong direction, because it took so long to get these perfect. I don't want to go backwards. Not again. And the hem, because look at this. This gives me so much anxiety. Like, it's fraying. As the longer I delay stitching this down and covering the lining, actually stitching down the hem, the more it's going to fray, because you can see that black section there. That is a very, very stressful little, well, we don't want it to get any further than that. So that's the other job today. So, yeah, I've got my pattern sorted. Like I said before, I taped all of those pieces back together. You can see it's just got a bunch of stock Scotch tape on there. And something I prepared when I cut out the drill piece for the back pleat. So I didn't actually need to tape that back together. So yeah, we're good to go. I did the collar this morning. That's, yeah, funny story about that. That's actually, so what I ended up working out was, in the show, they do see quite a bit of the collar in the shirt underneath the jacket. Like, it's almost a feature to have this little ruffly thing, and it makes sense because you want to see this gorgeous thing anyway. So I worked out that it was about 4.5 centimeters needed to be, because this shirt collar length is about, I'm pretty sure it's 5 centimeters. I don't know, 4.5. So I'm cutting them the same length, because this is going to poke out, and that's really what I want. If I cut it at 4 centimeters, it's still going to come up quite a bit shorter, and we don't want that. It's a happy in between. It's flush with the shirt collar. So I may end up having to recut the collar and just shortening a little bit, but hopefully I won't have to. This is one of the trial and error situations, which is why I'm not I'm not counting on trimming around the collar today either. In fact, I'm not entirely sure that I want to use the trim that I've been using on the rest of the jacket. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So one of them, steal this. This is what I was talking about before for the around the sleeve. So the way this is going to work, it's quite a wide trim. And because it's got all this glue on it, it's not quite as flexible as it used to be. So it's a whole nother thing trying to get it to curve around this collar shape. But I feel like I need to find a similar trim to this natural cotton sort of colored piece here. There's nothing wrong with this trim. It's quite a bit shorter. I've got a bit of it left though, so maybe I can actually just cut this shorter and just keep the top half of it. But that's just something that I've been thinking about. Like, I think I may need to find something just similar, but just a little bit shorter. Like, I'm talking like a centimeter wide or 8 mil like this one. But I may just decide to use this just for the sake of it. I may get the collar on the jacket and be like, no, that's actually fine. So yeah, that's it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to... Good question. It makes more sense to insert the lining and get that sorted first. So I'll cut that out and I'll incorporate the jump. That's right. So the jacket needs a bit of a jump like any other jacket. So the lining is cut quite a bit, just a little bit bigger than the jacket fabric, so it's easier to get on, which is going to make all the difference because it's already very hard to get on. So I'm going to cut out the lining, insert that, secure the hem internally, and then I can cut out the collar and cut out the facing. So recap: lining, hem, facing, collar. Let's do it. Oh yeah, one more thing I forgot to mention. I'm putting 2 pockets in the jacket front, 2 Barcelona pockets. Just a little note. I realized as soon as I started cutting the lining that I needed to make pockets, because I was like, okay, I need 2 things. I need to have my phone and I need to have a spot for my wallet too, like a little slim wallet. So that's what I'm doing. I'm making 2 fuck off big pockets, and I'm doing that, and then I'm lining the jacket. So, just realized something. So when I cut the lining for the center front piece, I didn't realize, like I forgot rather, that the fronts on the right side had just a folded over edge, which will be fine, but the maximum length of that is about 3 centimeters. And part of the edge is kind of fraying away, and I've got little niggly bits from the trims. So not a lot of length in that, which is fine. But when I cut the facing, I had a minimum length of 6 centimeters that the facing would have needed. So I cut the center front of the lining quite a bit shorter, but it was perfect for the left side, the underlap. But because of that, I've gone and messed myself up. So you would have seen in the video just then, basically this side is just a little bit too short. So with the jacket lining, so this isn't a conventional jacket, but we're going to pretend it is. You would have, like, the facing would have been stitched down, and there's a little bit of an overlap. Like, usually the facing is usually 6 centimeters, and you have an overlap of maybe 2.5, 3 centimeters, which you would just secure the lining down to the interfacing or the mounting, and you slip stitch the facing with the edge turned over down to the lining. So it's a beautiful little finish, but because of my miscalculation in the cutting, I've ended up with I basically just need a couple of extra centimeters. I just need a little bit of extra length added onto the folded edge that I've got here. So the facing that I've cut for the other one is going to be fine. But for this, I'm thinking what I'll do is, I don't have enough of the lining left, but I can, because I've got a lot of this left, I can cut a little bias strip of the outer edge fabric. The outside fabric, the brocade, and just, cut a little strip and have a little folded edge. So it'll give me that little bit of extra length, because alternatively, what I could have done is cut off this folded edge and just be like, well, it's facing on both sides. And that would be a simpler way of doing it. But I don't want to give up that folded edge. I love how it falls, and it's got a really nice solid weight to it. And for the sake of, I've taped both of the edges. I think that was in one of my previous videos. I did show footage of me stitching the tape down to give that front edge some real strength. But so I could have feasibly just cut off that folded edge and just been like, well, that's it. We're just doing facings on both sides. But we're not going to. I'm not giving up. What I'm going to do is just cut a bias strip, and we're going to save this aesthetic. And basically, I'm going to have relatively the same length on each side, the same overlap that will cover that raw edge of the lining. So that's my little update. I still have to do the actual pocket bags for the lining. So I've just got to go around and just make a little box and cut off some excess fabric, cut off the seam allowance. So that'll be nice. I think I could have made the pockets a little bit bigger, having it fits my phone and my wallet in it, so that's all I need it for. But I think generally I would have needed about another 3 centimeters added to the pocket length, because it's not a very big pocket. I can't fit my hand in it, but I really only need to be able to just, like, I was gonna reach for my phone, but I'm recording with you. Just pull out my phone or my wallet. So got to do that, and then we'll cut out that strip. I'll cut out the facing as well. I've got a bit of cutting to do actually next, so I'll do the pocket bag, and then we'll cut out the last bits of my Spanish brocade fabric. So let's continue. Okay. As you can see, continuity is out the window once again, so I am wearing my continuity uniform. I'm just going to put on the jacket. So, you can see... Actually, before I do that, just... I know you've probably seen enough of the lining, but... It's in. It's all in. And we've got some ease in the shoulder. And I fixed... Whoop, wrong side. And I fixed that little hiccup with the right side of the jacket. Earlier I mentioned that I needed to add a facing, an extension to this little turnover, just because this edge was fraying quite a bit, and I didn't have enough length in this to turn it under and stitch that to the lining on this side. So it worked out well. Okay, let's get this guy on. This is the first time putting this on with the linen shirt, so this will be interesting. Oh. It's quite a tailored fit. Oof. Oh, I love this already. Okay. All right, let's see if I can button this up. It should button up, but oh, let's see. There's a lot more pressure. I'm doing this on camera. We might have to cut ahead. There we go. Yeah, we're cutting ahead. Okay. Look at that. Oh, I'm going to actually show you more of that. Look at how the light is catching that. Here we go. Okay. Oh, that button is not staying on for a convention. Jeez. Okay. So, the collar. Yeah. So, I left these here on the table so that I would remember to talk about this, because version 1, version 2, version 3. So when I first attempted to put on the actual self-fabric collar, what happened was I was using the pattern measurement, which was 38, maybe 41 centimeters. My true neck's probably closer to 41, 40. And that's, as far as I can remember, I did fit this out and lower the neckline. But when I attached it, I was getting a whole bunch of drag lines. So they were all pointing to the problem, which was the shoulder seam towards the neckline. And that set me into panic mode. Last night was not a good night because it meant that something had gone wrong, and I had about three options. All of them, one was less bad. The other two were very worst case scenarios, which I was dreading. So we'll start with the second worst. That would have involved me going into the lining again, unpicking basically what I've done at the start of this video. So all the securing I did for the center front, the facings, I'd need to unpick a small section of that, unpick the herringboning that I'd secured the seam allowance to after I pressed them open on the shoulder seam, and then pressed it flat, taken it in like a centimeter each side, redo the herringboning, redo the lining, put on the collar again after I've unpicked the collar, and see if it worked. So I didn't really want to do that. The very worst case scenario was that I needed to actually lower the neckline because I thought that might have been part of the problem. I was easing too much of the collar too much of because the collar was smaller than the actual neckline. So I was putting too much ease into it, and that was creating the drag lines. So I was like, okay, I gotta lower it, which normally is fine, but I've got button loops inside the seam. So I would have been undoing everything I'd done at the start of this video to unpick the facing and all the lining and all the securing I did on the inside, lowering it a centimeter, reseaming that, redoing all of that, and then coming back to the collar and also hoping it would work. That would fix it. And those are really shitty options. I was not looking forward to that. But it occurred to me that I hadn't really shaped the neckline when I assembled this. So I didn't do any stretching. I mean, usually you wouldn't stretch the neckline. Like, there's a bit of easing when you're putting on a collar, whether it's a stand collar or a shirt, like that any collars, there's a little bit of easing, but generally you want to stay stitch that and you don't want it to stretch that much. But with this, there's a lot going on. This is very fitted and this is very thick. So I really needed all the ease I could get my hands on. So this was the first thing that I wanted to try, because if this didn't work, then I would go backwards and do that. So I recut the collar, it ended up being, I remeasured the neckline, 1.5 in from the raw edge, and it ended up being somewhere close to 44.5 to 45 centimeters. So the collar itself was closer to 41 at the most. So there was a difference of 4 centimeters, and that's quite a lot for a neckline. So needless to say, I recut the collar, fused, recut, reseamed, reattached with better ease, and that cleared up the problem as far as I can tell, because I think it just needs a press, but that's a lot nicer than what it was doing before. And just a little, so that's fixed, but just another little note about the collar. So I have some regrets. I know, there's a lot of regrets in this project, but I have some regrets about the collar. So the collar is the only thing so far that I've done something different with just the general construction. So basically what I've done up until this point, I've mounted every single piece to a very solid drill. I haven't fused anything. And then, I seamed all the panels together, and then I seamed the side seams. So I just fused one side of the fabric on the collar. And there's quite a significant difference in structure. That's not to say that it's not very strong. Looking at this, it's going around my neck. It's pretty solid for what it is. The key here was to avoid any bulk where I can, because once this is done, I've got to put trims all the way along this neckline. So whether or not this stands up on its own, that poly trim is gonna really hold that shape. It's like I'm taping that edge, so it's not going anywhere, and it's gonna be really strong. So yeah, I do wonder what would have happened if I had just mounted this instead, and maybe fused the lining side. So yeah, that's just one of many regrets. But yeah, I think it was the right choice as far as trying to create less bulk. It was the right call to make this the exception. So that was collar version 3, and arguably that was the best version. So what else? I did talk about the lining incident. So basically what happened when I was cutting the underside, from the get-go, I intended one side to have a facing and the other to have a folded edge, like a military jacket. There's just a rather than have a complicated so military jackets, ceremonial stuff, they're very interesting. So they have your overlaps and underlaps, but there's no nonsense. There's just a folded edge. They don't have time for facings. They've got all these beautiful what are they called? It's not bayonet buttons, but they're little metal buttons with clips on the underside, and there's just holes on either side. One's a buttonhole, the other is a hole to house the button, and they're quite strong. But there's a folded edge on each side. There's no facings. I was kind of half doing that, so that was the idea. But when I cut the underlap side, the side with the buttons, I didn't have quite enough of a folded edge to turn under. Just because it was very thick, and I've got the trims as well. There's stuff fraying. There was just not enough fabric for me to turn it under and slip stitch it to the lining, which is a problem. It is a big problem. But I guess the smartest solution, which is what I did, was to just add a strip of bias, and that actually made it quite a lot easier to give me a really nice edge to slip stitch to the lining. Because say, for example, that I did just cut a longer folded edge and I planned everything properly, it still would have been a real pain to slip stitch that really thick edge. And I think you would have seen a big old lump on about this far into the jacket, just on this side. That side, you wouldn't have seen anything. So I would have been very self-conscious of that. But because I'm going to open up the jacket. The bit's done. You're all seen what it's like, buttoned up and beautiful. We're gonna be disheveled for the rest of this outro. Ooh, okay. So that is a much flatter, neater edge. Like, I know, just take my word for it. If I had a folded edge of this against the outer edge of this, it would have just been a problem, and it would have really bothered me. So we're happy. I'm happy. Oh, the collar, see there? Inside of the collar, it's all really neat. And the button loops are the right edge. There was a couple of hiccups with the button loops, actually. Although I sampled it, see, as much as you sample something, stuff's still going to go wrong. Even though I decided that this was the appropriate hang for the button loops and ease of getting it on, I didn't account for how thick the underside was going to be, and I think there was just a miscalculation when I laid these all out and as I was stitching it, because I wasn't working under any seam allowances or rules with that sample. It was just to see what would happen and what the appropriate length would be. I hoped, but I had a feeling I would need to just let out a little bit of length on the loop side. And ultimately it worked out. It's regardless of how difficult it was for me to put on my own, it technically works. And any longer on these loops, and I think it's just going to be a bit silly. It's going to look like it'd be fine if it was an overcoat or something, or some kind of duster jacket, but this is a very stylish piece. So yeah, loops, lining, collar, sleeve puff. So I went ahead and I ended up adding the sleeve puff, and I'm really glad I did, because as you can see, she's very full. Still a little bit of puckering, but that's forgivable. Well, here's the thing. I was going to try and calculate and really hammer in, like, get a specific measurement, make as many registration points as possible, and get the optimum amount of ease for a poly and minimize any puckering. But the problem with that is I would have made the top sleeve very tight, and there's not a lot of room in this jacket. It's very, very tight. Obviously, like, I probably could have made it a little bit smaller, but I don't know. I think I would have had trouble getting my hands through. I've got noodle arms, but my hands are probably the widest part of my arms, so I think that would have been. It was the right call to make. I'm glad I didn't do that, because just looking at the pattern when I was working that out, trying to get as little ease as possible in this, because with wools, it's much easier to really disperse that extra fullness into the fabric. Like, you can really push it into itself and steam it and really ease it. But with this, you kind of get lucky. Like, there is a method to it, but I got as much fullness so that it was gathered evenly. I'm lucky that I've got such very prominent registration points with all the trims, but it's look, it's we're not gonna be looking at the top sleeve of this because of these little boys. So I've got a lovely. First of all, the shape is pretty. I like how full and that shape is on the sleeve head. So the sleeve puff was a good call. Mainly because look how. I wonder if this translates. I wonder if you can see this. There's a lot of. I'm gonna look back on this and think I'm an idiot. Look, there's a bit of a. I don't know how to describe it. It's a little bit of a like a. Well, it's like a sleeve head, okay. So generally, this part where there's a lot less puckers, it looks really beautiful. And because I've got the epaulets sitting on my shoulder, hiding this little discrepancy, this little, not an ugly bit, but just something that I'm not going for with this costume, it really evens out. There's a sense of order in this. And yeah, that fixes that. So the sleeve buff did that. That was a good call. The lining went in with a bit of trouble, but it's in. It's done. Don't need to worry about that ever again. And pockets. So I only did one of the buttons because I really wanted to talk about I really wanted to do this outro and get all of this on film. So there's a pocket. It's real. There's two pockets, in fact, and they fit my phone. So that's the main thing. I don't know how I'm gonna show you, prove it to you how that it's gonna fit in my, because I'm recording on my phone. I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but yeah, it fits there. Not too much. I mean, you'll know it's there, but for now, at least I've got the pockets. Should I need them? When we can go to conventions again, that'll be a little convenience I'll pat myself on the back for much later. So in addition to the collar, like I said, there is going to be trim on the outside. I haven't worked out what I'm going to do with the trim, whether or not I'm going to use this trim that I already have and cut it down or leave it the same width. I'm just going to see what looks better, but I am going to go to a couple of places, find a similar sort of a trim in black and foil it the same, but something just a little bit thinner, like ideally less than 1 centimeter wide. And I think that'll be perfect. Because I know in the show, I did investigate again, looking through my screenshots, and it is a different trim to what's on the jacket. Again, I am almost certain that the trim in the show was like a leather cut sort of shape, and that's how it's so metallic and flat. It doesn't look very fabricy like mine does, but I digress. It is a different sort of a pattern on the neckline. So I'm going to see if I can find something appropriate that fits in with the aesthetic that I've already got going. After that, cuffs, I've already got those ones done. So they're currently pinned to my mannequin still. So they'll be there when I get around to it, which that'll be the last video. This is the second last in the series. Hopefully. I've got to say that. Hopefully it is the second last. Because next video I'm going to be doing those trims, so cuffs, collar, and of course the epaulets. So that's the last construction-y element that I'm going to be attaching to it. So as you can see, it's one, two, 3 pieces. It's a little shape thing. I'm going to revise this pattern. I've gone and already marked it with a lead pencil. And so I'm going to unpick this, trace this off. Unlike the collar, I'm going to continue with what I did before and mount the Spanish brocade to drill, because I've got lots of drill. I've got a lot of the brocade still. I'm actually going to overlock this edge too, because as you can see, the calico's fraying, and because the epaulets aren't going to have a finished inside edge, like there's no lining or anything. Well, there could be, but I don't wanna. I don't. It's not worth doing. So I'll overlock all the pieces separately, or overlock the seam pieces separately, and then I'll overlock the outer edge later. Turn it up, top stitch it, and then I'll be doing attaching the trims. So I think there is 3 layers of trims, and I think they are the thick kind. So I've got the ribbon and the lace on top. So there's 1, 2, 3, and it goes all the way around the top. It sort of starts here flat against that edge and goes all the way around. I'm pretty sure it's 3. I'll clarify that later. But yeah, this will be exciting because it's all been very exciting. But this is a little separate thing that I haven't really made before. It's a little shaped, just a really interesting shaped piece. And I'll go through it properly when I do address this in the next video, but it's just attached with a couple of with a little daisy chain, and I'll be able to sort of move, and there'll be a bit of movement to it, but it's going to stay in place around my shoulder. And come post-convention time, if I'm feeling very, very nasty, I'll be able to dry clean this thing. And what I'll do before I do that is I can detach these, and yeah, that'll take care of them. That's one less thing I'll need to worry about when I'm getting this guy back from a bit of a post-convention clean. When we get to conventions. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all I needed to cover in this. It's quite a long outro, I'm afraid. But all in all, I'm really, really happy with how it's turned out. I got dragged out longer than I intended, like every other video. Am I right? But yeah, I'm really excited to finish off this build, because this is the fun stuff. We're gonna there's a little bit more art finishing to do. But we're not going to cover that. I'm not going to talk about the art finishing ever again. Because I think everyone's seen enough of me gluing and foiling and pressing stuff for, let's just say, for this build. So yeah, it's going to be a neat little finale. I'm excited, and I'll put the whole thing on. I was going to put on the pants, but it's very hot at the moment. Yeah. So with that, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you if you made it this far. Thank you especially. So yeah, don't forget to like the video. Leave a comment if you have any burning questions about the build. I know we're coming to the end of it, but if there's anything you wanted any clarification on, leave a comment. I'll be happy to answer. And also, I'm quite active on my Instagram, I say, as I've ghosted it for about a week and a half, but that's where I post most of my updates on the build. I'll do little stories, just what I'm working on as I'm recording this, and yeah, a little bit more aesthetic sort of stuff. We do a lot of time lapses on this platform, but there's where I try to put a lot more of the beautiful stills as I'm doing it. So there's that to look forward to. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.